Hello, and welcome to The Explainer. Every society needs a rule book for when things go sideways. And today, we're prying open that book for Yemen. We're going to follow the step-by-step journey of a lawsuit, and in the process, we'll see how a really complex legal code tries to turn conflict into clarity. So let's jump right in.
Okay, so just imagine it. A business deal goes sour, maybe a contract gets broken. You feel like you've been wronged, but what do? Where do you even begin? How do you take that personal fight and move it into the formal world of the law? Well, that's the exact path we are mapping out today.
In Yemeni law, this whole process has a specific name, al-Khasuma. And what's interesting is, the law doesn't see it as just a single event, like a court case. It's framed as a complete journey. It's the official path you take, starting with that formal claim and hopefully ending with a final, binding judgment. Think of it as the system's official map to get from conflict to resolution.
But before you can even start that journey, you need the right ticket, so to speak. The law has these 4 key requirements you have to meet. First, you need a legitimate interest. Basically, you have to have a real, legally recognized stake in this. You can't sue on behalf of a stranger. Second, you need proper standing, which means you're the right person or company to actually file the lawsuit. Third, you've got to follow the correct procedure. And finally, a court can have already made a prior judgment on the exact same issue. These rules are there for a reason, to make sure the court's time is spent on real, live disputes that actually need solving.
So what do those first steps actually look like? Well, it all kicks off with drafting a formal petition. And this isn't just some angry complaint letter. It's a very structured legal document. It has to clearly state who you are, who you're suing, the facts of the case as you see them, what evidence you have, and, critically, what you want the court to do about it. Then, you take that document and file it with the court clerk, who makes it official and gives you a case number. And the last step, which is absolutely crucial for fairness, is that you have to formally serve the defendant. They have a fundamental right to know they're being sued and to prepare their own defense.
And just like that, you're in. The petition is filed, the process has begun. You've officially stepped inside the legal arena. But now that you're in the arena, you have to be able to trust the referee. And that brings up a really important question.
Right. What happens if you don't trust that referee? What if you have a very real, very legitimate reason to believe the judge on your case just can't be impartial? Maybe they have a personal connection to the person you're suing. What then?
Well, the law anticipates this and provides 2 really powerful tools. On one hand, you have mandatory recusal. This is for conflicts of interest that are so obvious, like the judge has a financial stake in the case or is a close relative, that the judge must step down. It's not optional. No questions asked. On the other hand, there's permissive recusal. This is where a party can formally request a new judge because there's a reasonable fear of bias, like a known close friendship or a really strong animosity.
And get this, the law doesn't just leave it vague, it gets incredibly specific about this stuff. So how close is too close for a relative? The mandatory line is drawn at the 4th degree of kinship. Now that covers everyone from your parents and siblings all the way out to your cousins and great uncles. By drawing such a clear, almost mathematical line, the law just cuts through any potential arguments. It's a simple rule designed to protect something really complex, our trust in the court. Okay, so we have an impartial judge, both sides have made their best case, all the evidence is in, the witnesses have been heard. All that back and forth builds to this one single moment. We finally reach the moment of decision. And right here, we hit on a core principle of the entire legal system. A judge can't just walk out and declare a winner. The law is crystal clear. Judgments must be reasoned. They have to lay out the facts and the legal principles that led them to their conclusion. A verdict that doesn't explain why isn't just a weak verdict. It's completely void. It's like it never happened. This one rule is the absolute bedrock of accountability.
So how do they actually arrive at that reasoned judgment? The process is very carefully structured. First, the judges meet for secret deliberations. This is a crucial step that shields them from any outside pressure so they can debate the case freely. Then, the decision itself is made by a simple majority vote. And finally, in a perfect balance of that initial secrecy with public transparency, the final verdict and all the reasoning behind it are announced out loud in open court for everyone to hear.
So the verdict is read. The case is closed. The journey feels like it's over, right? But for the legal system to actually work and be stable, closed can't just be a suggestion. It has to be a real hard stop. And that hard stop has a legal name. It's a principle called res judicata, which literally means a matter decided. What it does is ensure that once a court issues a final judgment, the exact same fight between the exact same people can't just be dragged back into court again and again. It provides finality. It's what stops legal battles from becoming endless.
This all sounds good in theory. You went through the whole journey, you won your case, the judgment is final, but what good is that piece of paper if the other side just shrugs and refuses to pay the money they owe you? What happens when they just don't comply? The legal journey isn't quite over yet.
This is where your judgment transforms into what's called an enforceable judgment. It's no longer just a decision. It's now the official, stamped document that works like a legal key. It's the key that unlocks the full power of the state to make sure the court's ruling is actually respected.
And this enforcement process is what turns that legal victory into a real-world result. The winner goes back to court and requests enforcement. The court can then authorize the seizure of the debtor's assets. We're talking everything from money in the bank to land to physical goods. Those assets are then sold off at a public auction, and the money from the sale is used to finally pay the debt that was owed.
Now, that sounds pretty harsh, and let's be honest, it can be. But the law isn't just this cold, blunt instrument. It actually recognizes that the goal is to satisfy a debt, not to completely ruin a person's life and ability to make a living. It has this really surprising, compassionate side. And that compassionate side is written right into the legal code. The law specifies a list of exempt property, things that simply cannot be seized no matter what. This includes a person's main home, the tools they need for their job, and enough food to feed their family for 3 months. And the details here are just so human. The code explicitly protects 1 cow or up to 10 goats or sheep. It even protects an author's rights to their unpublished work. The goal here isn't to let people escape their debts, but to make sure they still have the basic means to survive and hopefully rebuild.
So when we step back and we look at this entire journey, all the way from the first step of filing a claim to the rules about an impartial judge, all the way down to protecting a single cow from being seized, you have to ask why. Why are all these incredibly detailed rules so necessary?
Well, it's because this is the fundamental point of a civil code. It's a society's collective agreement to replace chaos with a predictable order, and to make sure that disputes get settled not by who is strongest, but by what is right. That, right there, is the journey of justice. Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.